All right. Good morning. Welcome to Into the Jeremyverse. This is our beginning foray into a live play role play adventure. I'm Jeremy, the all powerful game master. Um, Let me give you a quick intro here. Titans roam the world, avatars of the elements, changing the landscape as they pass through it. The sentient races of the world strive together to herd and corral these giants and protect their civilizations as they can. The savage dragon's mercenaries are one such expert at Titan wrangling, but it is such a difficult task. Only the greatest see action on the front line. These are the tales of recruits striving to prove themselves worthy. These are the hollowed tales of their heroism. Thank you for joining us. Or if you're catching this later, thank you for coming back and checking this later. We're looking to start a Saturday morning ongoing stream. We have some players lined up, but this morning you get me, the GM, and I would like to introduce you to Alex, our DM.
That's
Alex,
me.
how are you doing
Always
this morning?
Doing pretty good for it being a Saturday morning.
Right. Uh, we both work overnights, so this is like the very end of the day for us. Let's give a little background. What we are, how we met, what are we doing together?
We're two
Alex?
idiots that met at work,
Yes.
and we're doing stupid stuff together.
That
No.
sounds about right. Yeah, no, we met at work, chit chatted, started hanging out, found out we're both old as dirt, started talking about random things, and eventually it came up that we both like playing Dungeons and Dragons and other role playing games and wanted to play again. So outside of this, I started a game that Alex plays in, and then we
And I
want to
start
keep playing. So Alex starts a game that I play in.
so we can both at least play and not just run.
Yeah, I think so far it works pretty good.
Yeah,
We keep our stories fairly separate from each other so that we don't know the inner details and we don't hold it against each other. Even though Alex is striving for that TPK, I am striving for my players to load onto the struggle bus, uh, make their lives as difficult as possible, morally, ethically, and in combat.
it's funny because I'm not really striving for TPK, but I always seem to bring it right to the brink of it.
Yeah, no, that's how it goes. That's kind of a struggle that I have as a DM. Is how do I plan for my party to have an encounter that they don't get a walkthrough, while at the same time giving them something to actually uh, work hard at. Give
Yeah,
them an accomplishment.
yeah, make them feel accomplished because it was a hard fought battle. Those are the
Oh
best
yeah,
ones to win,
yeah.
obviously. But
I love the ones where I've almost died and like come back at it. Even the ones where I'm not victorious, where my team is victorious and somehow they've saved me on the sidelines. I think just recently in your game, my character was sickened, and he was dying from a magical disease. And every time we went into fight with disadvantage, he just started failing left and right.
yeah, yeah, then
And
you had a disease and exhaust 2 levels of exhaustion.
yes, that was fun. Uh, so I gave us a couple questions to go over this morning. Things just to kind of lead our conversation. For me, I wanted to do more. I like playing, but I wanted to get more people involved. I go to work, tell everybody around me about all of my gameplay. I spill all of my GM secrets, and I go off of them based on their reactions, what I put into my game. I'll say something like, oh boy, what if it's a town of puppy people? And all the quests are they have to get them treats and tell them they're good boys. And I'll get people like, that's actually pretty funny. I want to see all the good boys get their treats. They deserve treats. Your players had better be successful.
Yeah,
So we kind of wanted a way to show, especially my wife, who hates listening about me role play. She loves listening to me, but she's not a role player. She doesn't care. Uh, so now I can actually just make her watch this and be like, "You got to support me, honey. This is important to me."
There you go.
So that's kind of what I wanted to do. And I have some struggles DMing because you get to a point where it's like,
Where do we
how
go from
much,
here?
where do we go from here? How much do I put into this NPC? How much do I put into these monsters? I don't want to leave dead space for my players because the second they get dead space, they lose interest. So do I push the story? Do I let them drive the story? Do I spend time with the monster just creating my spreadsheet, looking at the stats? How do I interact with it? And so I kind of had the idea of, for this, being the game master, telling the story, getting the players' reactions, pushing their role play. But instead of me focusing on the monsters, I'm bringing Alex in. He's going to be our dungeon master. He's in charge of the encounters, the dungeons, the monsters, all of that. We're working together. But this way, I don't have the full story. We're just kind of telling it together.
Yeah.
We have goals for our players, stuff that we want to see them do personally, accomplishments, um, growth, working together. How do they accomplish this, right? So we created this world, uh,
We're creating this world.
creating this world. Alex and I have an abundance of what's known as not attention. Uh, I'm too poor to pay attention, and so I can plan a lot of stuff. But for me, it's a lot more interesting to let it kind of flow.
It also helps that we both have like different styles. You're better at the story driven part of it, and I'm more about the combat and the tactics of it. Like, I want to tell a good story, but you can tell a better story where you want to run good encounters, but I'm more towards the combat
Yeah.
aspect of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I like to throw in a good monster, but Alex does it really good. This is how you find the monster. This is how the monster interacts with you. Like, I usually find a monster and then look for an excuse to put it into the story. What is it here for? What can it do? Uh, there's a few that they fought uh, of the homebrews. My favorite so far has been what I call the help worm. Alex, what's your take on the help worm?
Uh, well, it was a good encounter. I really liked it. The fact that it was like using a lure to lure people in, thinking they're going to help, and then suddenly, bam, combat. Like,
Right. And it was too. It was the encounter is you're out in the wilderness. They were looking for a dungeon. They didn't know where it was, so they were searching. We gave them dice goals, so as they rolled, hours searched, places found. I made a grid that if they rolled it was a D6 and a D8, and based on those locations, what they found, and one of them was they caught cries for help, and they come across, and it was a pair of humanoids, a man and a woman, I think, in this encounter that are being sucked into the ground. They're being harried by wolves, and as the party comes up and starts fighting the wolves end up running off, and you just get the people calling for help. And they had the great idea to tie a rope around one of themselves and throw the rope to the creature. And how did that go for you?
I ended up tied to a gargantuan worm.
The thing was what, 30 feet long millipede with a humanoid mounted on the back of its head. So when it rose up, it would hold on to you and just dangle you in front of its jaws. You kind of thwarted it by the fact that you were on a rope and not right in front of its teeth. But it gave you a good run for your money. It had some fun attacks. We'll have to have some more. We'll see how it goes. But I really wanted this homebrew monster in there, and it took me a while to find the story behind it. I hate forcing players down a road. I hate railroading them. I've done it before. I'm sure it'll happen again. There's a story I want to tell. There's a story I want to see, and so you kind of create a path. Um, that I think with the two of us working kind of with each other but separate, it's going to give us a lot more openings on getting that story to occur naturally. The way I literally wrote it out was 4 to 6 people versus the DM. And we're going to do a little bit of like kind of interplay. Let the players take a front seat. Hey, I see us doing X. I want to go do this. Or it was so cool when we were on X mountain fighting this dragon. And then letting us as the DM and GM kind of come up with a story for that.
Yeah.
You know, where the player comes in and goes, hey, I just accepted the quest to go clean out the goblins from the gumdrop mines of someplace, you know? And okay, well, now we have to come up with that. Do we go straight up with this is that thing you said? Or do we come around with the thing you said was wrong, right? This is known as the goblin infested gumdrop mines. But in all reality, it's actually a dwarven stronghold, and they just harvest a bunch of multicolored gems that make it look like there's gumdrops everywhere.
Yeah.
So we'll let it go back and forth. What's it going to be? What do we hold the players to? Wordplay is the DM dream.
Or role play.
Roleplay, wordplay, it's both. So in the campaign that we started off, that you play in, Alex, you right away got into a dungeon.
Yeah.
And you were led there by the nose. And it was obvious, like, something's up. This isn't right. You were requested by Madam Madison to go clean out her
Basement.
her basement, her rear dungeon. And you had to go through the back door to get there. And you found out it wasn't strictly a dungeon with monsters, but it was an adult-themed dungeon that you were led into and led astray. So we got the story, we got the role play, and then I like the wordplay because then all of a sudden, like, the horror hits your players of, oh, he literally told us this was going to happen. I didn't believe it because he also says a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
So this is kind of what we're doing. We want to do this together. We've both got other friends we want to bring in on it. We've got some good role players that we already play with. I've got some friends I've played with previously I want to bring in. We're looking to do kind of like a couple weeks on, few weeks off. And on our off weeks, instead of role playing, we'll do pre-recorded sessions, interviews, recaps, one-on-one sessions. Maybe it's somebody's behind the scenes. This is their character from previous. Yeah. So we're in the process of making this world. Alex, you want to give a little insight on some of the things we've done to create what we have going on?
Well, both of us being of limited time, we've started to lean a little bit on ChatGTP to help us flesh out our ideas. But we've come up with, we want it to be a lighthearted world, obviously with the Titans changing the landscape, being chaotic, and trying to figure out the mechanics of that. Both of us just really want to tell a great story and create a fun environment where we can all have some fun in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That will be that's our goal. So what we kind of did was we came up with some ideas that we like. This is the basic genre we want. This is kind of the weird things. I think I described it as a madcap adventure. I want high octane, crazy antics. I want lots of weird characters, NPCs. We're telling our players that kind of stuff. Like, hey, we went to an earlier version for character creation. Because it gave us just more options on the character creation, and we're just going to kind of let them go wild. But we fed some of this into these AI programs, and we wanted the weird stuff they spit back, right? We wanted like the fingers with or the hands with like the 10 fingers per hand. Like things were just wrong, like the two hands holding each other, but the arm doesn't lead anywhere. We wanted, what does this AI give us that is something we never would have thought of because it's wrong, it's silly, it doesn't fit. And the one thing they said was like, hey, how about an ever-changing landscape? And so for us, we came up with, well, what would create a constant changing landscape? What would modify that? We've got some, I think, they're really great ideas on what these titans are, how they express themselves in the world, how they change the world around them.
Yeah. And working out how people adapt and live in that world and cope with these ever-changing obstacles.
Oh yeah, no, it's. I got some very great ideas. I love it, and we still want to leave it up with some of the players. With, I can't believe we got here from there.
Yeah.
Right, you want that moment of surprise of, hey, we went to camp and this was a desert, and we woke up and now it's an ocean.
Yeah.
Something similar. I'm not giving you spoilers because we haven't created that yet. We actually have ideas. But we want to put like a lot of stuff into this story. In my campaign, I kind of started with a mythos. I started with this is the law of the land. And then as the players got into it, I created that more and more and more. They don't know it. They're getting more involved in it. I'm still developing some of it, right? It's this big interplay of science and magic. I'm explaining the world through magic, but it has to be things that scientifically make sense, even though the science isn't what created it. It was magic. It was things that they just are. Alex's campaign, I know there's a legend behind it. He's given us details. I don't know what the full story is. I don't know what the whole thing is. And I kind of like that. I definitely read things to my players. I started writing like epic poems on the lore and the history of it. And as I read to people, they're like, I can't believe you did this. Not because it's so good, but they're like, I can't believe anybody bothered to write this down. I said, yes, I'm not even done yet.
Yeah. Wait till I say it out loud.
Yes. Yes. Wait till I have an audience and they have to listen because they tuned in. It is what it is. So we've got some stuff that we want to put into this game. We're still working on it, right? Because as it goes, it's a growing story. We don't know what these players are going to try to put into it because it's jarring to have it. This is the world where nobody does these things. Oh, well, my character's backstory, I do only that thing, and I'm really good at it. I don't want to hurt my players. Make that character be good at that. Let that kind of character grow. And we'll grow the story with it. We have some basic stuff that we're doing on the background. As we keep going, we've been working on some NPCs. I think we've had some good ones so far. We've had some good cities, towns. We haven't really come across straight questing. One thing we did was we fed into the internet puzzles for children. Right? I think the quest that we gave to ChatGPT was create an escape room that children can handle, and we'll see if our players can actually match that.
Yeah, like, are you smarter than a third grader D&D edition?
Yes. Can you cope with an AI-led escape room? What kind of random stuff? And then we edited it. We got the ideas from it, and then we had to modify them for ourselves because some of it,
didn't fit.
Yeah, where it wants you to put your 7-fingered hand on the wall, and nobody has 7 fingers on that hand.
Yeah.
And then there's a fun thing I like as a DM where you take something from the real world and then reword it, and you present it as something new, and it's like, wow, this is so complex. And then you realize it's just a game of Twister.
Yeah. I like you were saying, we're not trying to railroad people just to leave it sandbox. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, and we actually had some pretty good ideas on making this very interesting. There are things that we are expecting of our players that they don't know, that I think are going to be really great additions that once we tell them on later this week, they'll be like, oh, well, I'm glad I'm here for that. I don't get that anywhere else.
Yeah, and I'm gonna admit, like for most of my role playing experience, I was a reluctant GM. I've only had before now. I've only had a couple campaigns that went any amount of time without us just scrubbing and trying something different.
Mm-hmm.
And doing it now, like DMing now, especially with people we work at. So like the next day at work, everybody's talking about it. We're laughing about the
Oh
shenanigans
yeah,
that went on. We're talk about what they want their character to do and all this stuff, and it's really got me more geared up towards DMing.
yes.
And I'm
So
hoping
which
that through this storyline and through our telling stories, we can not only introduce new players to D&D, but to really open up people's ideas of what it is to DM, because it doesn't have to be this hard, fast thing where
no,
you have to create this specific dungeon and they have to fight these specific monsters, but more create a couple different scenarios so we're ready wherever in whichever direction they want to go, and just kind of find a way to adapt our ideas to their story.
yeah. One thing that me and Alex are always talking about is, we get on different Facebook groups, whatever, and somebody goes, "I'm a time DM. What do I do? How do I do this?" And a lot sound disheartened. It can be very difficult to do. You can put a lot of time into it, a lot of effort. You can put so much information into your campaign. You can plan out every detail, and it is amazing. They are a tour de force. There are several podcasts that I like to listen to where it is clear that the DM has like put their heart and soul into it. They thought about it. They wrote it out for their players. They know them, and they just hand their child up on a platter. But it doesn't have to be that difficult. So one thing we kind of want to do with this thing today is, hey, if you want to start DMing, it doesn't have to be that hard. You don't have to go in with a hard and fast story. Both of our campaigns, as people play, they'll get to a certain point where they're like, all right, we're ready to do this. And we've been playing for 5 hours. I don't have story after this. Not specifics. I know like the general stories coming behind us. I don't have what you want to do right now. I know what's through this dungeon, but I don't know what's on the other side of that door. Give me a minute. And that's okay to have. Like, we can stop there, right? We're players. We've done good stuff. I like to, if you really don't have something, just throw out random stuff. The meme out there is, if you don't know what to do, what NPC to have your characters play with, get 3 characters, give each of them a name and a goofy accent. Whichever one your player sticks with, go with it. And so when I don't know where to lead my story, I start putting up random stuff. You roll for perception. Okay, well, you see birds flying off to the west. You see the sun setting. You see clouds here. You see smoke coming from the distance over there. I want to investigate the birds. I want to investigate the smoke. Where do they go from there? And the last times we played, I had nothing set up specific until I'm checking for this stuff. All right, well, you see signs of habitation. You come across a house, and then we had to come up with an NPC for it. And it's good. I like it. It fits really well with the story. He actually fits with the world. And I wouldn't have done that if the players hadn't kind of pushed me in a weird direction that I hadn't planned.
Yeah. And I kind of get like, I shouldn't say irritated, but seeing all those posts where people are like, I'm first time GM. How do I get started? Where do I get started? Sometimes the trick is just to get started. It doesn't matter where you start or what you start with. You can start with drawing a map. You can start with like, you know what? I want to see people fight kobolds. But how can I make this interesting? I don't want them to just be kobolds. And you just start somewhere. And once you start getting that put down, the ideas will flow, or maybe they won't. And you'll find a different direction you want to go into. But if I could give anybody any advice about being a DM or a player, is just get started. Build a character. If at the end of it you're like, no, this isn't what I want, build another character.
Oh, yeah.
I know people out there that their favorite part of this is building characters. They just do it for fun on the side. One of the guys at work, he's just always coming up with character ideas in his head.
Yeah.
Set them up, and then we talk about them, and he's like, oh, yeah, this and that. Just get started.
I do that all the time. I make extra characters, and then Alex goes, why is this character in my campaign? Don't worry about it. It's just in case. It's just an idea. I wanted to see what it would look like fleshed out.
I thought that was funny because after I killed the first character in that game, everybody made backup characters and then another backup character. And before I knew it, I had like 18 characters in that campaign
Yeah.
in my D&D Beyond setting. And I was like, what is going on? You guys need to like calm down. I was about to just start a different campaign just for people so I could share all my books and stuff from D Beyond, and you guys could just build characters over there because it was like getting cluttered.
It's not a bad idea.
Like, I gotta find this one. Gotta
I like
scroll
that
2
too.
pages down.
I like to, talk with some of my work buddies of what would it. I want to make this as a character, and we do weird things. Everybody has their own. You have what the role playing books say to do. This is how you do character creation. This is how you roll. One thing I like to do is everybody rolls their stats in order, and you're stuck with it.
Yeah,
right.
I do like that.
We do a character creation. I make everybody pick a race and a class, and then you roll for everything. And my background for it is every kid wants to be something. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a bus driver. And not everybody's cut out to do the job they want. And so we might have somebody who wants to cast spells. In fact, we have one player who he's a cleric in a 5th edition D&D game, and his wisdom is trash. His spells fail half the time. Like everybody that he fights against resists his spell casting. And his character's response to that is what makes it fascinating.
Yeah, how do you find a workaround?
Right.
This is what I want to do, and I'm not great at it, but I'm going to find a way to do
it. And his character makes me so excited. He's a first-time player. And I'm glad he's in my campaign because he came up with weird stuff that everybody I play with, like, we've been playing for 30 years, and you play a cleric like this, and you do this like that. And he's like, oh, we fought some Etten. We're like, yeah. He's like, I cut off their fingers and put it in a bag. We're like, okay, maybe trophies. He's going to sell it. And the next day he's talking how the bag is empty, and everybody realizes he's eating finger food. And it is the most interesting character detail I have ever seen in one of my games. It's not a tragic backstory. It's not my vampire mother and my ninja assassin father who wiped each other out and are on tales of vengeance with each other. And I'm in the middle and I hate both of them. It's I cut off fingers and eat them, which is disturbing, but it's hilarious. It is fantastic storytelling. I love it. And that's kind of what we want to see with other stuff too. Like, I don't want you to have this fully fleshed out character of in every situation I know exactly what he's going to do, because then you just have an NPC. Yeah. You could just be playing anything you want and you have the same character. And, oh, the party walks into a bar. My character says that he wants to buy a beer. And he sits down and he drinks the beer and goes to bed like he does every day. End of story. Yeah. But we have one of our players he brings in. He likes to hit the dwarven whiskey. And it's interesting. You know, it's not every day, but he pulls it out. Yeah, so we kind of want to see that.
Alcoholics in that game.
Yes. It doesn't help that the first NPC you ever encountered in that game makes his own liqueur that has mystical properties. And
I immediately became addicted to it.
Yeah. Yeah. We rolled a constitution check and you failed and became addicted to this liquor. You're an actual alcoholic. You don't drink for fun. You're not even a drunkard. You're an alcoholic in this game.
Kind of along with what you're saying, not the alcoholism, but with character creation. That's why I like to start at lower levels. I've heard a lot of people complain, well, you don't really get anything till 3rd level that's useful or dramatic, but I like starting at 1st or 2nd level because it gives them more time to flesh out their character, to really like, okay, this is what I want to play and these are my stats.
Yeah.
And figure out those workarounds and figure out where they're going to advance from there. Because at the end of the game, it really makes it more your character. It's more just that character was developed more by its circumstances than just what you wanted to see.
Right. Absolutely. And I love that. And what we're actually doing with this is we were talking about what level do we want to start everybody at? Where do we put them in the beginning? And I want to do a higher level because I want to throw monsters at them. I want them to fight for their lives from the get-go. But that doesn't give you story building. That doesn't, well, I'm a druid and I took this kind of a druid path. Well, why did you take that path? I don't get that building. It's just I took it because it gives me these spells. So one thing we actually want to do is we're going to start them in a several session zeros where they are a lower level. And as they build their character in these session zeros, they're going to level up. And it gives them that impact of why did they level up? What did they use to get to this stage?
Yeah, what works for me and what doesn't.
Yeah.
Because every D&D game, you end up finding these combo of moves and stuff that work together well for your character. But where did that start from? If you start at 5th level, you're just randomly throwing stuff out, seeing what works. But if you started at 1st level and now you're 5th level, you already know how your character would react in a way with what it has.
Yeah. My character in your campaign, I decided to play a Goliath rogue. I thought Goliath sounded fun. I've never played a giant character. I've never played anybody huge, tall. And I actually made him taller than normal. He's 9 foot tall, but he's a rogue. He's a swashbuckling rogue. And his specialization is in hiding and persuasion. And I didn't know where to take it at first. The very first run we had, he almost died. I've never played a rogue before, and this character, I didn't know what I was doing with him. He was tall, full of bravado. He was fighting somebody, and the guy comes in the room, and I go to hide and fail, and used deception essentially,
you use your persuasion.
You didn't see anything. The guy's like, no, I didn't see anything, and then he got backstabbed, and it's like, where'd that guy come from? I thought he said he wasn't there. And so as we played, all of a sudden, my character, I decided he's just going to hide everywhere. It doesn't necessarily fit. It doesn't make sense. It's kind of a, hey, GM, can I do this? Can I let this happen? Like, we're fighting some monster in a muddy fit, and he just fell, and he literally just rolled in the mud and disappeared, and then popped up and stabbed it later. So it was a failure. He failed his attack. He failed his run. And what made it fun for me was he rolled with it. He accepted his failures. Right after that first session, he literally had a heart-to-heart with one of the other players. They were being sold into slavery. And I'm talking. I'm like, I really missed this. And I messed up. I need to go back to my roots. I think I made his background that he loves hide and seek. And he's hiding out in the world from his tribe so nobody else can take his hide and seek master title. And so he's like, hey, I didn't hide. I need to go back to my roots. I need to do all these things. And I think we were probably 5 minutes into that conversation when we realized the other player's mic had dropped off and he wasn't even online.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I guess I've just been talking to the other guy in this wagon. And that's been something that we developed in that character. He now refers to anybody as John. That was what the guy's name was John. And now like the other guy's like, am I John? I was like, I don't know. Are you John? I like Johns. I know all you Johns. Every time he meets a new person, he's like, are you a John? Is that who you are? You can tell me.
Yeah. He refers to everybody as other John.
Other John, new John, dead John, young John, original John.
Yeah. When we first started talking about D&D at work and just discovered we both liked it, I was working third shift. You're not really social very much.
No.
And I was looking for more interactions as, to be social and to get out there. And I was like, man, I used to love playing D&D with my friends, but we haven't really played. I think it was shortly after 4th edition came out. That group kind of fell apart, and we played together the same 4 to 6 people for 10 to 15 years. I couldn't even tell you exactly how long. It was like every Sunday. And I was like, I really miss that. And then I found other people at work that are like, oh, yeah, D&D. I've heard of it. I want to try it. Or I used to play that. And I was like, we need to get something going on our shift. And I just kind of discovered 5th Ed. And I was pretty excited about it. And I dove into 5th Ed. I bought a bunch of books on D&D Beyond. And I kind of regret doing that now because I'd rather have the physical copy. But I don't want to spend the money to get them again. But I realized that 5th Ed was pretty cool at first, but after a while, it seemed kind of limiting. Like it wasn't as diverse as 3.5, which I remembered, and I think that's why we ended up going with 3.5 or based kind of loosely on 3.5.
Yeah, very loosely. So we wanted like a lot of the options and the customizations from 3.5. I wanted like the different races, characters, but we're not going to play
Prestige
strictly.
classes.
We're making our own rules on it as we go, and it's things that we've written down, just like the character creation. So normally we do, you pick your race and class, and then you roll your stats, and you go in order 4d6, and you drop the one die from everyone except for one. And we'll let you keep all 4 die on one. That way you can have one stat that's really high, or you can have one stat that doesn't go abysmally low. And for 3.5, playing like that, it doesn't work. The stats are too
Integral.
ability. Yeah, they're integral. They're ability centric on it. And we didn't want to tie somebody to, boy, I had a really bad dex and I wanted to be a ranger. And now I can't do anything as a ranger because it's just going to fail. And they're not failures, they're successes. So we actually decided with this one, we're going to have them roll same thing, except for you can switch 2 of your rolls. And that way they can, if they have their core stat is just a flub, go ahead and switch that with something else. But at least the rest of it's set in stone. And I have seen it where some of these characters roll really high. Good for them. And some of them roll poor, like that cleric with no wisdom. Which is great because that's how he plays his character too. I don't think it's intentional. It's just fantastic.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited to see the role playing, especially since most of the characters I've only that we're going to run in these first few, I've only played with one of them, and that's what's really interesting is to see how everybody role plays. Like, how are they going to play that character? You kind of get an insight into them as to how they build their character, how they play it.
Yep.
You can get to know people that you've never met. It's just like, everybody playing online. They get these with like Call of Duty or whatever they play online. You get these online friends that you end up playing with all the time. And then they end up meeting in real life and they're just like great friends because you see each other, but through a different lens. I don't know. I'm not really sure where I was going with that. I get it.
One
of the things I love about D&D.
So even with our players, like in the one that I run, all of us work together except for one guy. We won't count him. He doesn't count. The rest of us all work together. And there's minimal interaction between all of us. We work different departments, different shifts, different areas. And while we do talk sometimes, where we really bond is on this. Like once we get into our role play, once we get online and start talking to each other, it's there. We're the group. This is the family. This is all of it. Whereas like outside of this, we may never talk to each other again. I might not even look at you. Sorry, John.
Yeah.
Not original John, other John. So in this one it's kind of interesting because I've played with all but one person that's joining this. And then the one person who I've never played with, neither of us have played with, we know him and we're excited to bring him in, and I don't know what he's going to do. In my campaign, actually in both of our campaigns, we never coordinated our players. We never said, this is the kind of campaign it is. You need to make a character for that. And we didn't talk to each other. We didn't coordinate. Okay, I'm going to be a healer. You be a frontline. You be this. We just kind of went with whatever.
Yeah.
Here's something for beginning DMs. It's good to give your characters something to start off on. It's fun sometimes to have you're all in this tavern and some chain of events leads you to go off on an adventure together. In my campaign, you're all part of an adventuring guild, and that's why everybody but our newest player isn't even a member of the guild. He was just wandering the world. His backstory was, my parents were farmers, and I wanted to go prove myself in the world as an adventurer. I wanted to help people. I wanted to be out there doing stuff. And that's it. And they're like, well, you're part of the guild? And he's like, what guild? I'm like,
yeah.
You didn't know. It's very interesting. I love it. So for us, we kind of set up some stuff in your campaign. Me and the other player had a pass together, right? We done some missions and then separated. We came back together on a chance encounter.
Yeah.
And in our role playing, we've done it where, oh, remember that one time that we were doing this? Why don't you tell about that? What did you do here? How did we get out of that situation? And we just kind of put it back and forth of, oh, you always do this thing. And then it's like up to me to do that thing to fill in their story. My campaign, you're part of the Adventurers Guild. And in this coming campaign, it will be this mercenary company.
Yeah. The one thing about DMing, you could be totally sandbox, but there has to be a starting point. There has to be something there and a reason for everybody to be together.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
With the rest of the story, you can sandbox the whole thing, but you just have to do that first encounter. And sometimes you got to force the players to come together as a group, and sometimes they just do. It's just fun to see the way that that's going to roll out.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I love to put them into situations to see what happens. And then they put me in the same thing. But for this upcoming campaign, we're actually going to get them together. We'll let them talk it out. Some of the people have said, hey, I want to play this kind of character. Do you think I'll be able to? Absolutely. I can see the people, everybody we've got playing is willing to make compromises for a team.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be interesting because some of us, I started back in the early 2000s with D&D 3.5. And I used to like to blame my DM. Like, oh, he's not a good enough DM. He did the stuff. He led me down wrong paths. And then I'm realizing now I wasn't such a good player. Right? Where somebody says, read your character sheets and read the books. Oh, you know what? It makes some sense. It gives me a way to go. It gives me a way to think. I went from D&D to starting to play Shadowrun. And in Shadowrun, that's where I actually got to see role playing. It was just the team we had, the group we had. We were all friends in college, and we just started playing for weekly pretty much. And we were so enthralled with our characters and the story, we didn't want to stop. And our DM moved on. He graduated, and we needed to step up. And I just said, I'll lead it. I'll start role playing. I started running campaigns, and I'd never done it before on anything. I didn't even know where to begin. I literally just took my last character, made him the lead NPC, and had him run the story. It had some success, had some failures, had some really fun stuff, especially letting the players do what they want to do, putting them in situations and letting them role play and then calling them on their consequences.
Yeah. And that might be a bit of advice too, is you can't just follow your storyline. It doesn't matter how much time you put into it. If you just try to railroad people, you're going to lose role play and they're going to lose interest because they never get to do what they want to do.
Oh yeah, big time. You kind of kill your players when you know you can't do that. No, you have to do this. But if you let them hang themselves, it makes it a lot better. We had a tale where they were fighting a mercenary company. There's a raid in the town, they're in Shadowrun. They're down in South America. It's this port I created. And this mercenary group is coming in and upsetting the balance. And it gets a whole city of rogues. It's a whole bunch of different factions, gangs, everything. And the players are like, well, we want to stop this from happening. And so they end up slaughtering a scouting party. And they're like, well, we need to get out to their submarine that they're on, that they came in on. And then they're like, well, we'll dress up as them. Well, everybody's dead here. What are you going to do? You've killed everybody here. They're not going to believe you show up. And you're like, hi, I'm unscathed from that murdered party back there. Can we come on? So the guy's like, I'm going to put on their clothes and I'm going to stab myself in the leg. So I'm wounded. And I'm like, okay, roll for it. Like I'm thinking roll for finesse. I'm going to go make this cut. I want to cut just like this. And he takes all of his dice and rolled it and almost killed himself. He succeeded phenomenally on his attack roll, and he almost died. If somebody hadn't stabilized him, he would have killed himself trying to get on the ship. And it made this fantastic lore with his character of how far he was willing to go. Like when he went to that ship to infiltrate it, he had a legit injury, and they're like, oh geez, get this guy into the med bay. Like, let's get him treated. And he got in and did what he wanted to do. So he had consequences. I had story. They didn't have to do it. They could have just run away. But this is how he wanted to do it. And it held him to his own mythos for it. This is what I did, and I'm going to have to hold to that standard. So that's where I started from. And then I just got out of college and started working and didn't roleplay for forever until we started chit-chatting again.
Yeah.
Nothing
I started
really
with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons back in the I want to
The
say
Stone Ages?
early 90s, yeah. And my buddy Dan, he is a gamer. Like, he's the kind of kid that if there's nobody to play a board game, he would just sit there and play it by himself.
Mhm.
And he introduced me to D&D, and we had so much fun. It was just the two of us, you know. So he was DMing and he was also playing as a character, and it eventually, you know, it just developed. We'd get another guy in, and then another guy, and it ended up building this friend group. I mean, we still all talk weekly, probably, but then after our big group fell apart, after there's been breaks here and there. Sorry, I'm stumbling here. So me and Danny played probably, several years through high school. Other games came in and out, Magic and whatever else, White Wolf. But after we became adults and came back together, it was really role playing that drew everybody back together to where we were all meeting up every Sunday. And I don't know, you can create these really great friend groups through such a simple game. And it seems complicated. It seems overwhelming at first because, you're like, oh, there's so many books and so many rules. But the rules are just suggestions. The books
they really are
to help fuel your imagination. Like, you can do whatever you want, anything you want.
I like to use the rules as a curb. Like, don't go beyond these, right? Like, 5th edition jumping. You can't just jump 30 feet in the air. You have to have an ability to be able to do that. And it's good to have those kind of limiters.
Yeah.
But in my game, for flanking somebody, you don't have to be opposite. The rule is if it has to turn its head to look from one player to the other, it's flanked.
Yeah,
which doesn't work when you're fighting a Hydra.
Because you got to divide your attention.
Yeah, and that's how I want my world to be. But it doesn't necessarily make it like a big tactical. One of our players is very tactical, and he's very smart about it. And he's like, I'm going to do this. And yeah, I'm giving it to you. Like, I think that just makes sense. And while he's doing it by the book, which there's nothing wrong with, I'm like being loose fire from the hip. Yeah, no, I'll allow that. You can do this. Like, it doesn't quite fit per the rules, but I think it fits the spirit of what's going on. And like I said, like, they were fighting a Hydra a couple sessions later, and you couldn't flank it because it just kept looking at you.
Yeah. I think we've gotten a little off topic.
We kind of have.
Yeah.
So
that's the one thing about D&D. It'll always draw you into a conversation, and you have no idea where that conversation is going to go. People that play love to talk about it. They love to tell you stuff that their characters have done in previous games. But right here, we're here to talk about this game.
First-time DMs, don't worry when people just start chit-chatting. Because when we start going off tangent, that means we're having fun. Yeah. Don't be mad that your players start talking about something else. Because it takes you out of the moment, but they're loving being there, right? We feel comfortable. I don't put my feet up somewhere I'm not comfortable. I don't talk like this when I'm not happy to be there. But we're back into the Jeremyverse. I literally made this channel about 1.5 years ago, trying to get me and my buddies back together. We hadn't played in a while. We were on different states, different time zones, different schedules, completely different career paths. We're all over the place. And so I wanted a place where I always called my game the Jeremyverse. That way, well, that's not the way the world is. It is in my world. This is my world. I am in charge of it. And so I made this YouTube channel for that. And, I couldn't pay enough attention to get there until here 1.5 years later. Here is the first video. And we're talking about this new brainchild, this into the Jeremyverse. What are they doing in this world? We haven't even given them a name for this world yet. We've come up with some of the ideas we want to have. We have some themes that are going on. They're going to be sent out. Our players are going to be going into the world to make names for themselves, right? That's the line in the intro. These are the tales of recruits striving to prove themselves worthy. They want to be the frontline fighters. They're not there yet. They need to have renown. They need to have skills, right? They're going against Titans. These things are massive. They're just unimaginably powerful. And you can't just walk up as a level 4 anything and take them on. Or they could, but that's why we're making them make backup characters. Yeah, I mean that's kind of, we want this theme of go out and prove yourself. Hey, you know what? Go and save that caravan that disappeared in the mountains. Go and slay this monster. Go and do something heroic, something that we wouldn't do on as normal people. We've made some NPCs, like I said, and like they're gonna have a handler. This mercenary group it's large. They're in their own squad together, and so they're gonna have a handler that just sends them out. And I've worked on that character a little bit, giving him some background, giving him some personality quirks. After that, it's gonna be throwing out 10 different voices and seeing which one they latch on to. We have a character, one of my Shadowrun campaigns. They were in a bar, and the guy said he's the best guide you're going to find. And he's an alcoholic, and he does the thing where he closes one eye to see you better, but then he covers it with the other hand. What they didn't know at first was he's actually a really powerful mage that can see through that hand. But for some reason, they trusted their life to this guy and let him lead them off into the Amazon jungle. And Bill lives on. He's a legend. He's the best guide you're ever going to find. And he got them where they wanted to go. But I had no plans on them finding anything. It was just, what do you do? Okay, I figured they'd brush him off and find somebody else. Find like the grizzled man in the corner, the Aaron sitting in the back smoking his pipe. Oh, we want that guy. No, they went with Bill, the guy who closed both of his eyes to see you better.
Yeah. And if anybody is watching this, or when you watch this, if you have any ideas for quirky NPCs or anything, just shoot them out to us, and we'll find a way to. We might find a way to work it in.
Put it in the chat.
Yeah, we'll throw you some credit for it.
I'm probably going to give my children some crayons and the basic direction of what would a monster look like? What would you make a monster? And then we're going to make it a homebrew. We want to give production value, right? I listen to the Shatterblight Chronicles, and I love the production they put into it. It's a story. They pull you in. It hits. There's sound effects. There's music here and there. Like, it's everything. I don't have the brain for that, or the time, or the patience. So we kind of went with our own route. We're going to go a little bit low-key, a little bit fresh. I'm working on making some backgrounds out of crayons and paper, and instead of a blur image behind me, you'll get crayon jungle. This is my brainchild. This is where it is. Look at my baby. If you step on my baby, I will always hold it against you. So we want to do some of that stuff. We've talked about the pan, right? That's one thing, they always tell the DM, what are the gods in your game, right? In my game, the deities aren't like this pantheon of gods just sitting up in the heavenly realm. It's actually the celestial bodies. It's the moon circling the planet are part of the deities. The sun is its own personality. The planets have their own. And if you worship, most of them aren't even worship. It's you follow their tenets. And when you follow their tenets, you get the benefits from it. So I'm a cleric that follows this moon. So I'm more about experiencing life. It's not necessarily about what powers it gives you, but I want to hold life sacred. So I follow this moon. I want to hold adventure important to me. So I follow this moon. In this world we're creating right here, we were talking about where the gods may not be as directly involved as they are in other worlds. We haven't fleshed the whole thing out. We're coming up with homebrew gods, homebrew reasons. They're going to have their own intrigues, their own carousing, their own interlocking with each other, their antagonists, their protagonists with each other, who's friend, who's foe, why do they ally, what do they actually do with existence, right? You look back at Greek that, the portrayal of Greek mythology, and Zeus fought the Titans and got rid of them. And in this world, I think we're letting the gods let the Titans go to an extent. They're not fighting them. They kind of want to see what happens. What does sentience, what does life do? What does civilization do with these things? How do we survive with them? Or do we not? Is that the end game? We've talked about other stuff, kind of scenery. We're talking about using different map programs for how they can handle combat. In Alex's campaign, he uses one where I can control my own token, and in my world, they don't get to control anything. They tell me what they want, I move it around. Is this what you want? Yeah, I can see that. Or if you want that to happen, you're going to have to move like this, and I'll show it on the screen. It gives me more control as a DM. Also, I'm really lazy and don't want to set it up for them to control.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to use. I mean, in my campaign, we used Roll20. There's Foundries. There's Owlbear Studios. That's a nice free one that Jeremy uses. But
yeah, I really like it.
I like being able to let the characters move around and then using the dynamic lighting, so I don't have to control anything. I don't have to erase Fog of War. I can set up things ahead of time, and they don't know it till they can actually see it. I think that helps a lot with the combat.
It does.
Takes some of the load off of me.
Oh yeah,
20 has been pretty good so far. I'm just starting to look into Foundry. You got to try a bunch of different things out till you find what you like.
See, and why we're teaming up is because in his campaign, we go wild and just start moving our tokens everywhere, exploring every nook and cranny without him having a chance. We're like literally kids running into the candy store of what's in this corner, what's in that. And he's like, hang on. Did you go here? Yes. All right. You're going to have to roll this. That was a trap. Like, is it going off? Did you find it? What happened? Which is one thing I like mine is you can't do that. You can't throw me off in that fashion.
Having, I just got Foundry yesterday and I was going through it. And one of the options it has is like, you have levels of players. You have a player, you have a trusted player, you can have an assistant GM or a GM, and you can control exactly how much they can move, whether they can draw on the screen, whether they can move their token or whatnot. And that's kind of got me leaning more towards Foundry because you guys are like toddlers in it.
We are.
You just fucking.
I don't know how many times I go in this room. Okay, hang on a second. Nope, I'm not going in that room anymore. Oh, I'm going to go kick the pile of skulls. Oh, congratulations. Now you have to dodge a magical sickness. So, that's something that we've worked on. And with this being a live play broadcast, we're limiting them to an extent. We don't want them running muck everywhere.
Yeah, it does get frustrating. I'm trying to describe what's going on in the room you just ran into, and then someone's like, hey, what's this over here? I see all this. It's like, well, it's
like Willy Wonka where everybody's trying the candy before they're supposed to.
Yeah, pretty much. It's about to be a karmic backhand because you're pissing me off.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no regrets.
Yeah, because you don't usually do that.
That's true too. In my campaign, Planes of Existence, I don't really have them. I don't have the hell. I don't have the demonic planes. I don't have the devil's planes. I don't have the holy planes. Those things exist, but they're not another plane of existence. They're other planets. They're other places, things that are alien to you. And so in my world, I don't have to limit myself. Oh, well, I don't have a hell, so you can't get devils. No, you have devils. They're just from somewhere else. They're from a part of this prime material plane. It's just a different part of it than where you're at now. And you can use magic to access it. That's how they've gotten to my world, is essentially magic. They've manipulated the science of the world, the science of the universe to get there. It makes it easier for me as a DM. We've kind of talked about the different planes in this world. I don't think we've settled on an exact use of it. But that's something that we're looking at. Like, Where are the gods? Can I get to the gods? Can I get to the other places? Does everything just keep showing up? Are there random wild magic surges that take me to another plane? Like all of a sudden I'm in the elemental plane of water, right? Or is that where these titans get their powers from? What are the players going to find out? What are the NPCs going to tell them? I also love the NPCs that give you wrong information. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. The Titans never draw power from other realms of existence. And then you find out, oh, shoot, they do. Too little, too late. We're boned. So we actually wanted to play this game, like I said, high octane, mad cap, whatever. We plan on party killing. It's not our goal, but we want to set it up in a way that they're getting a big challenge. That if somebody dies, it's possible, and likely even right. They're low level. They're coming into their own. What's going to go on with that?
Yeah,
and so we're going to have.
Go ahead.
Please, after you, DM.
Say even if it's not a total party kill, there's going to be plenty of player death.
Yes. We were. I've left it up to Alex what the dungeons are. Right, it's his dungeon. I get to let him figure out. This is the dungeon. This is how it impacts the party. This is how you get there. These are the monsters in it. But then I like to feed him ideas.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, no, make the dungeon. But wouldn't it be interesting if it was this, and then let it to his grasp? What does he find with it?
And the same with the story. Like Jeremy's going to be, relaying what he has plans for, like this, where he wants the story to go. I'm going to add in, be like, well, if they do that, why wouldn't this happen?
Right. Like I plan on doing a bunch of city building, describing different NPC areas, different cities, different settlements. Well, how do the monsters in the dungeon fall into that? Doesn't necessarily fit. And then we're gonna have to play off each other. What happens, right? It's literally like a three-way free for all, where two of us are only one at a time. There's only me and there's only you. Meanwhile, there's 5 players that get conspire against us.
Yeah.
So one thing we're looking to do is go 3 or 4 weeks on. Oh, we said that, go a couple weeks on, a couple weeks off. But that gives us a chance to kind of do some back lore. In the campaign that I'm hosting already, we couldn't get all the players together. So when not everybody could get together, we just went and did a prequel quest. What happened before you got to this city? And that was hard for me because we had the ending. You guys start off in this tavern. You start off in the world. You start off walking this road. And if we do a prequel, how did you get to that road? Okay, I can give you a story, and how can I guide you to that end spot? And I think we ended up doing 3 or 4 prequels, just walking it back a little bit more every time. We actually had a couple sessions with players that hadn't interacted yet, and they were chasing each other in the world. One guy, we were trying to get him with the party, and nobody else could play when he could at first. And so he's following them. But he doesn't do the same thing they do. Like, I can say, oh, you follow this path. But the breadcrumbs I gave the earlier party, they avoided. They ignored it. He went with it. And how do we wrap the story around to where he was at? Where do we bring them all back together? And in this one, I think will be a little bit easier. Everybody starts kind of together. But we're going to do side missions. And what did you do previously? Do you have to go away for a minute, right? This is the real world. People can't play every session. So what does your character do when he can't play that session? Is he a loaf of bread for the session? Is he sick? Is he tired? I think that's what we've done in previous campaigns, is like the one guy was, I'm too tired. I'm not even dealing with this right now. I'm getting the room at the inn and I'm going to sleep. And then our other 2 players who could actually play went and played something. They went and did some of the story to fill in that background.
Yeah. I like the way I handled the last time when someone had a power outage and couldn't make it. So
yes,
for a while, everybody kind of filled in to kind of play his character while we got finished out that scene. But then as soon as I could, I was like, yep, he's gone. turns out he
Yeah.
was concussed and wandered off and ended up captured by kobolds. And then it created a whole new scenario where they had to go and try and save him, and he tried to save himself. And it gave me a one shot with that character. And I don't know. I like the way that things can work out that way. You can always take a bad situation and just make it add to your game.
So in the map I'm showing now in the background, it will go this way. Unidentified ruins are where they were looking for. That was their quest to find it. When they went out to look for it, one of the characters, his connection dropped out. And everybody was talking to him, and all of a sudden, where is he? And we just played it. He fell in a hole. We named it after him. It's his hole. It's a random cave system that I had to make into a dungeon. And that's the kind of thing we're looking for in this campaign. We want that kind of weirdo stuff. It's unplanned for, it's unintentional, but it makes for a good story. You guys spent like 3 sessions in Shamael's Hole. And it's literally a place on the map, Shamael's Hole.
Yep. It's a good time.
It was. They routinely visit Shamael's Hole. It's kind of fun because his character is a short dragonborn. And so it's really easy to say. Everybody else is tall. I think everybody's at least 6 foot besides him or taller. And so we made him like 4.5 feet tall. And when they're going, he usually rolls poorly on perception, and he just plays it as, the grass is too tall. I can't see anything. Or I'm stuck looking at my feet again, or at everybody's backsides. And that's the kind of stuff we want to see in this campaign, like the unintentional things. Make something weird for your character that wasn't a distinct advantage. Give him a handicap. He's missing his left hand. It's going to make him a lot more interesting as a barbarian if he only has one hand.
And a prosthetic club.
Or a prosthetic club on the other side. I've seen that. Or was it the orcs and the Hobbit where he had the sword shoved in his arm, right? And that's what he used to slash everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're looking at a lot of that stuff. We've put some lore into this world, and as you go through it, you'll find that we've got some mythos. What is the background? What is the history? Right? We gave it to you right in the beginning. Titans roam the world. That's our mythos. That is the world build. Everything we do in this is going to be based off of that. We're going to this place. How does that deal with the Titans from the world? Is this a dungeon that could have existed for several thousand years when dragons literally form mountains at will so they can have their hordes and nobody disturbs them? How will my story be subject to that mythos? That doesn't mean I'm stuck in a spot, but it gives me a launch point for where I want to go with it. Yeah, that's what we've got. Nobody's watching right now, so there's no questions for us. We do plan on doing this pretty much every Saturday morning. That's the ideal. Either we'll be live streaming or there'll be something pre-recorded. Even our session zeros, we're going to be recording them and releasing at a later date, right? Once people, I like this character. How did he get to be like that? Where did they meet? What kind of child-proof child's dungeon did they get out of?
Yep. So, our next stream will be the 11th?
No, come on, calendar, pop up. The 9th will be our next stream. Saturday the 9th.
Okay.
We have off of live stream a session on the 11th. But that's for our players, not for you people out there who aren't watching this. But yeah, no, if you watch this and have feedback, call me, tell me, chat it to me, put it on the replies to this.
And hopefully by our next live stream, we'll have a little more money so we can afford to pay attention and not meander so much. But
yes.
We're both new to this. We're finding our legs, and it's only going to get better from here.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm very excited for this. I literally have stacks of notebooks that I've been writing notes down in. What dungeon is this? What is going on here? This is the NPC.
I'm gonna have to point out to everybody that the stacks of notebooks are like little notebooks.
They are.
Little
They're not
pocket
even
notebooks.
details. It's literally one of them has like a list of homebrew monsters I want to make, and some of them just have question marks after them, like Squirrel King question mark. Tree lions. What are they? What do they do?
Like fentanyl monkeys.
One of them was zombie squirrels. I love zombie squirrels. That was actually in a homebrew
That
that
was fun.
they've encountered, and zombie squirrels had like no hit points. But what they had was if there was enough on you, you had to roll for becoming panicked. And instead of doing like just like a swarm single entity stat, no, we played with 50 zombie squirrels. And each one got its own attack and climbing and all the everything. You guys smoked them. But it was fun for me to just throw at you of what's going on. So yeah, so these notebooks, well, they're small. There's some potent stuff in there, mister. What do the shark people do in the forests? What are a prairie wolf? Yeah. I don't know. I was watching Zom 100 and I saw what that shark did.
I haven't seen it.
I know. Somebody's going to watch this and they'll be like, I get that reference. That was for me. But yeah, no, I like the notebooks because it gives me lots of ideas and they don't all come to fruition. Some of them have crosses through it. Squirrel King, he went through 15 different iterations before I settled on what I wanted. And I cannot wait for my players to run into Squirrel King in any campaign. That's not a spoiler. You're going to run into him, but what is it? Like, it can be anything. You'll never know until it's too late. Oh, we climbed the big tree. Guess what? That's Squirrel King country. Yeah. No, I love doing the homebrew. I love the stuff that source books give out. There's some fantastic material. But even then, I like to change some of it once in a while. And you'll get this in this campaign a lot. I think in my campaign, you fought against, it was an ochre jelly, a slime, an ooze. And instead of just fighting against it, that thing actually gave off a zone of silence. And so everybody walked into it, and all of a sudden it got quiet, and my spellcasters couldn't cast anything until they killed it. And it just gave them something interesting. What would your character do if all of a sudden their crutch is kicked out from underneath them?
Yeah.
Alex.
Fun. Yo.
Yeah. What do you have for us? Is there anything else that we haven't covered yet? We plan on kind of going from 7:30 to 9:30, a little loose. So we've only been going for just over an hour now. I don't think we're going to go for a full 2 hours today because there's just two of us and we've accomplished most of our tasks. But is there anything you want to bring up? What you want to ask me? What you want to ask the people out there? What you want to prepare them for?
Well, I mean, I think everybody's wondering what's wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm just kidding.
Mm-hmm. Why haven't they been stopped yet?
Yeah.
Where are the authorities?
No, we've covered most of it. You said you had some topic ideas, and I didn't get them until about 5 minutes before we started streaming, so I didn't have much prepared.
I literally texted Alex Wednesday night, and I said, we're going live on Saturday. I have these ideas. And he's like, okay. And then I never gave them to him.
I'm excited to be doing something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care. I shouldn't say I don't care, but I'm not concerned with having like a huge following or anything. I just want to write a story and put it out there, and I hope that people enjoy it, that whatever we do, it's not just fun for us to play, but people can sit down or put it on their headphones or whatever and just kind of laugh along and get involved.
You know what? That's actually something I really like on some of the podcasts and stuff that we watch, the other live play systems, where as the observer, I can catch the details that are put into it. I can catch that turn of phrase where the players are trying to be actively engaged and they miss it.
Yeah.
And you on the outside,
so much going on.
I, as the GM, know it. I'm like, I said this phrase, you should have paid better attention to it. You know, night falls, everybody takes 4 damage. You weren't listening. Like, why aren't you listening? And as the outside, you actually get to see that. But realistically, I want an excuse to play, and
Yeah.
this is it.
Just another
Yeah,
excuse to play
yeah,
more.
yes.
And it's a way to justify it to your significant other. Like, I can't. I got a live stream. This
Yeah,
is important. We
this
have a
is a
schedule.
business expense. There's no profit in this business, but it's an expense. Yeah. One thing was interesting. We struggled to have a session. We struggled to have a team, and we're like, yeah, we would just play if we had more players. And as soon as we started,
Yeah,
all of a sudden,
my game
everybody's
started
like,
first, and it was just two of us. It was
yeah,
just two players and me
yeah,
and you, and then all of a sudden, other people, as we talk to them, they're like, "Oh yeah, I want to play," or "I've heard about it, but I've never played before. I'm kind of interested."
right. And even then,
It's
it's
like the
like
Field
I
of
haven't
Dreams.
played in years. Yeah, if we build it, they will play.
Yeah,
And fail and get killed. It's not the dead coming; it's the living coming, and they will die. It'll be tragic and beautiful and glorious. We will sing ballads of them. I love singing. There's going to be singing in this. I don't have a fantastic singing voice, so you're welcome.
I enjoy singing as well, mostly off key and tempo, but
Off key and in groups is the best. I like to just a cappella, random stuff off the cuff. Uh, I think there was a couple nights in your campaign where people would say a line and I just kept continuing with it was a song lyric and I just kept going with the song. And eventually somebody's like, all right, Evanescence, like, stop right there. Like, oh, you finally caught on. It was like 30 songs deep before somebody realized I was just quoting other songs.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
music adds a lot.
it does. It really does. We had it one night. It was a drinking competition, and the guy in the game he passed his check to not be pass out drunk, but he was happy enough drunk that he had to sing, and we made the player sing,
Yeah, that was
and he
fun.
didn't expect it, and he didn't want it, and he did fantastic at it. It was probably the highlight of the session.
I mean, he didn't sing well, but he did do a good job.
Yes, I was in the moment. He was absolutely intoxicated and singing. I think it was a double entendre too. It was definitely he was doing that in the game, and I think in real life we'd all been drinking as well. That's fairly typical. Yeah. What else do we have? I think that's about it for today. We're excited. We've been using this streaming service. We're doing StreamYard, and we've just been playing with the backgrounds and banners. Uh, we we like to pop up random stuff for our players. Uh, yeah, some of these fantastic tickers, and our players have not expected them, and it'll just be, yeah, yep. Uh, so they'll be playing, and all of a sudden somebody will snort and be like, "Did you see what was just on the screen?" Or we'll change the somebody's name to the missing or the dead or this person no longer exists or something, whatever is applicable. Uh, we have a lot of fun. We like to switch up the background too, which is the background we have here. This is actually a homebrew that nobody has encountered yet, and it's just a matter of time. It's not even a good spoiler. Like, this doesn't tell you anything other than it has a lot of teeth and it looks mean.
Yeah, I am really getting into the more homebrew aspect. Like playing with the other group, we would modify things a little bit, but it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know. At least on my end, when I was DMing, I didn't really think to change the monsters much. I tried to keep them core because it made it easier to run.
Yeah,
But
a
now that
lot
I'm
easier.
opening it up and like trying to homebrew and change them and just make them special to fit the environment, to fit the scenario, whatever, it's
Mm-hmm.
actually, I think it's become easier because it's not like now I have to create an environment to put these in. It's like I have this environment, but I want to
Yeah,
use these characters. How would they fit into it?
I like to shift what it is. They were exploring Shamiel's hole and they're looking around and I'm just making it up because I never expected somebody to drop off and fall in a hole. And they found bird tracks and dog tracks. And it was blink dogs that were herding some axebeak. And the players don't know this yet. They're not sure what's going on. They can see something coming at them down the tunnel. They can hear birdsong. And what is it? What's it sound like? Well, the one player knows a phenomenal lot about D&D. And so it's like, well, you hear like canaries. Oh, I hear canaries. Well, that's not too bad. And then all of a sudden, the axe beaks come out and just go to town on them. It's like, that's not what I was expecting. I like to modify that. I have a few monsters coming up where it's like, oh, I know exactly what those kind of monsters do. And I've modified a few of them that it's like, that's surprising. I don't think I like that. But it's fun. I like the surprise. That's how I live my life. I don't want somebody to know the punchline before it's said. All right. I think we're going to call it quits here. Please come back. Stay touched. Subscribe, like, comment, reach out to us, whatever you feel like doing. And the next time we see you, hopefully you'll see some of our players as well.
And my face.
And
If you're
his
unlucky enough.
face. Yeah, no, it's tragic. As the prettier of the two, I went first to kind of lure you in. And now that you're addicted, you're going to be stuck with everybody else. So, till next time, play strong. Don't worry about it. It's just a game.
Not doing bad if everybody's laughing.
That's right.